The North Central region is the heartland of the United States of America. The region is nicknamed the Heartland because of its central location, and because the whole nation depends upon it for survival. The region's crops feed people around the country and around the world. Iron ore, limestone, and other minerals from the region are vital natural resources for the nation's industries. People all over the United States buy cars and other goods from the region's factories. The North Central region is the largest region of the United States. It covers 765,530 square miles, about 1/5 of the nation's land. There are 12 states in the region: North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio. The arteries of this vast heartland are three mighty rivers: the Mississippi, the Missouri, and the Ohio. Both the Missouri River and the Ohio River are tributaries or branches of the Mississippi. Almost all the land in the North Central region is part of the Mississippi River drainage system. Most of the rivers in the region empty or drain into the Mississippi or one of its tributaries. The Mississippi River system provides the North Central region with a natural transportation network. The region has thousands of miles of rivers that are navigable, that is, deep enough for shipping. The Great Lakes are also important transportation routes for the North Central region. 4 of the Great Lakes, Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, and Lake Erie, border on the North Central states. The Great Lakes are among the largest bodies of fresh water on Earth. The lakes are connected to the Atlantic Ocean by the St. Lawrence Seaway and to the Mississippi River system by a series of canals. Products from the North Central region travel on these waterways to markets all over the world. The big cities of the region are located along the rivers and the Great Lakes. The cities are centers for industry and transportation. The land in the North Central region is shaped like a huge, shallow trough. The foothills of the Rocky Mountains are on the western edge of the region. The foothills of the Appalachian Mountains are on the eastern edge. This picture shows the Badlands of North and South Dakota. The Badlands are part of the Rocky Mountain system. These are South Dakota's famous Black Hills. Like the Badlands, the Black Hills are rich in gold, oil, natural gas, iron ores, and other minerals. All the highland areas of the North Central region contain valuable mineral resources. For example, the sand hills of western Nebraska contain deposits of oil and natural gas. In the superior uplands of Minnesota, there are many open-pit mines. 40 to 50% of the nation's iron ore comes from northern Minnesota. The hills of Ohio in the eastern part of the region have deposits of natural gas, oil, and coal. Ohio's hills also provide lumber, paper, and other forest products. Iron ore and coal are mined in the Ozark Mountains in the southern part of the region. The Ozarks are also an important source of limestone. The rivers of the North Central region flow from the highlands, the areas nearest the mountains, down to the lowlands, the areas near sea level. The central lowlands are located in the Missouri, Mississippi, and Ohio River valleys. The lowest lands are shown in green and yellow on this map. The lowlands look almost completely flat. But the land is not as flat as it looks. It climbs very gradually toward the Appalachian Mountains in the east and toward the Rocky Mountains in the west. In the central lowlands, the soil is very rich. Much of the land is used for farming. Corn is the most widely grown crop. Farms in the lowlands also grow other food crops, like soybeans. The Great Plains are located to the west of the central lowlands. Like the lowlands, the Great Plains look flat, but the land slopes upward. The farther west you go, the higher the land becomes. The Great Plains were once completely covered by natural grasslands called prairies. Huge herds of buffalo once grazed on the prairie grasses. Today, the prairies grow wheat and other crops. Sheep and cattle graze where the buffalo once roamed. Although the lowlands and plains are not completely flat, they don't have any high mountains either. This geography helps create extreme weather conditions. This map shows temperatures during the month of January. The gray and blue areas are below freezing. As you can see, most of the north-central region is very cold in the winter. Icy winds blowing down from Canada can make the air seem even colder. In fact, it gets so cold that the rivers freeze. In the summer, hot winds from the Gulf of Mexico and the southwestern deserts can make the temperatures soar. This map shows temperatures in the month of July. The yellow, orange, and red areas are above 70 degrees. The north-central region gets quite hot in the summer. The amounts of rainfall and snowfall in the region vary a great deal from place to place and from year to year. This map shows the average amount of rain that falls each year. The blue areas get the most rain. As you can see, the eastern and southern parts of the north-central region get more rain than the western part of the region does. Dramatic extremes of weather. Vast stretches of open land. Large freshwater lakes. And mighty rivers. These are some of the geographic features of the north-central region. It is a region upon which everyone in the United States of America depends. The heartland of the nation. The north central region stretches to the horizons like an ocean of land. The land is watered by the Mississippi River and its branches. The Mississippi, Ohio, and Missouri rivers form one of the largest river networks on Earth. Long ago, Native Americans lived in small villages along the rivers and streams. They hunted and fished for their food. They also planted crops of beans, squash, and corn. The huge cornfields of today owe their beginnings to those first Native American farmers. This is the Great Serpent Mound, a giant earthwork built in about 100 BC in what is now southern Ohio. There are many such mounds in the north central region. The mounds are evidence that advanced civilizations existed in the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys over 2,000 years ago. At the time the mounds were built, the land still had most of its natural cover. In the southern and eastern parts of the region, the gentle rolling hills were covered by forests. In the west, the plains were covered with grasslands called prairies. Along the river were swamps and other wetlands, rich in fish, birds, and other wildlife. But the land was about to undergo a major change. A series of invasions from across the Atlantic Ocean. These invasions would change the Native American way of life forever. From Spain came the conquistadors, or conquerors. They conquered Mexico and then pushed their way north. The black line on this map shows the route of one conquistador, Francisco de Coronado. In 1541, Coronado journeyed as far north as present-day Kansas. One Spanish import, the horse, was quickly adopted by Native Americans. Horses helped the Indians to hunt buffalo more quickly and efficiently. For the next 300 years, the horse was to be the most important form of overland transportation. By the early 1600s, England had founded colonies along the Atlantic coast. As the East Coast settlements grew, the colonists began moving west, toward the Appalachian Mountains. Meanwhile, traders from France were entering the north-central region. The French explored the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys. The red and black lines on this map show the routes of the French traders. The French built trading posts along the rivers. They wanted to trade with the Indians for furs. After the American Revolution, the land south of the Great Lakes and east of the Mississippi became part of a new nation, the United States of America. Soon, a flood of new pioneers was pouring across the Appalachian Mountains. Land was the bait that lured the settlers west. The westward growth of the United States happened very quickly. In 1803, the United States bought an immense tract of land, the Louisiana Purchase, from France. Two explorers, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, traveled through the territory. The route of Lewis and Clark is shown in red on this map. The green line shows the route of another explorer, Zebulon Pike. The reports of the explorers made people in the East even more eager to move west. As more and more settlers arrived, the landscape changed. Woodlands were cleared for farming. Roads were built along the old Indian trails. Between 1830 and 1850, a system of canals was dug to connect the Great Lakes with the Mississippi and Ohio rivers. Now, most of the trip west could be made by water. The canals also made it easier for farmers in the north-central region to ship their crops to markets on the Atlantic coast. The steamboat speeded up river transportation even more. Steamboats were operating on the Mississippi River by the year 1811. The Mississippi River town of St. Louis, near the junctures of the Mississippi, Missouri, and Illinois rivers, became the gateway to the West. From St. Louis, huge wagon trains of pioneers made their way across the prairies. Most of the pioneers came looking for land to farm. They brought most of their farm animals and equipment with them in their covered wagons. The task of turning the prairie into farmland was a back-breaking one. For the pioneer family, it was a lonely existence in a harsh land. For the Native American, life was even more bleak. As the hunger for land grew, the Indians were resettled again and again. The government broke its promises to the Indians many times. When the Indians tried to protest, the government sent the army in to fight them. This is Fort Troughton, North Dakota, one of many forts that were built in the north-central region during the wars against the Indians. Towns often grew up around the forts. The coming of the railroads made important changes in both the Indian and pioneer ways of life. Hunters for the railroads nearly destroyed the buffalo herds upon which the Indians depended. Instead, the prairies became the grazing land for immense herds of cattle. Cowboys drove the cattle to railroad centers, such as Ogallala, Nebraska. From there, the herds were taken to markets in Chicago and the East. The railroads also made it easier for people to move to the north-central region. During the last part of the 19th century, many of the arrivals came directly from Europe. This group of German immigrants settled in Aurora, Illinois. These young dancers from Nebraska are celebrating their Swedish heritage. Between 1870 and 1900, hundreds of thousands of people from Sweden, Denmark, and Norway immigrated to the north-central states. In 1874, a group of farmers moved from Russia to Kansas. They were members of a religious group called the Mennonites. The Russian Mennonites brought an important gift with them to the New World: winter wheat, a crop well suited for places with long, cold winters. Today, winter wheat helps make the Great Plains the breadbasket of the world. By 1889, all the land in the north-central region had been organized into states. The dates on this map show when the states were admitted to the Union. Immigrants continued to pour into the region. Not all the new arrivals were farmers. People from Poland, Ireland, and other European countries settled in big cities like Chicago and Detroit. The cities were growing because industry was growing. More and more people were working in factories, not on farms. By the early 1900s, the United States was entering the age of machines. Michigan became the center for the manufacture of the automobile. The factories of the north-central states also turned out new farm machinery, such as this threshing machine. As farm machines improved, farms got bigger and bigger. Today's farms depend on machinery. For example, farmers use airplanes to spray the fields with weed killers, bug killers, and fertilizers. After the crops are harvested, they are transported to central storage areas, such as these huge wheat silos in Nebraska. Meat is also produced on a big scale. Today, cattle are fattened up in large feedlots. The meat is prepared in packing plants, like this one. Railroads are still important in getting the products of the north-central region to market. This is the Kansas City, Missouri Railroad Yard. It is one of the nation's most important centers for shipping meat. These cars from a factory in Detroit, Michigan, are also being shipped by rail. The North Central region is also served by networks of highways and by airplanes. This picture shows Chicago's O'Hare Field, the busiest airport in the United States. The North Central states owe their prosperity to their location. The region's transportation routes connect the east and west coasts of the United States. Its products can easily be shipped anywhere in the world. But in modern times, people have come to realize that there has been a price to pay for progress. Big factories have created many jobs, but they have also seriously polluted the air and the water. Big farms have helped the region grow more food more cheaply. But big farms depend on big machines, and big machines often cost so much money that ordinary farmers cannot afford them. The closing down of smaller family farms is one of the biggest problems facing the North Central region today. The construction of cities and suburbs has changed the ecology of the lowlands and prairies. Farming and ranching have changed the region's ecology too. Too much grazing can turn the prairie into a partial desert. Without their natural grass cover, the prairies can dry up altogether and blow away. That is what happened during the terrible dust storms of the 1930s. To prevent that disaster from happening again, some scientists are working to reclaim the prairies. This land in Indiana has been replanted with natural prairie grasses. Other scientists are working to save the wetlands along the rivers, which support many species of fish and birds. Wilderness areas have been set aside to ensure that fewer natural land resources will be damaged or destroyed. National and state parks ensure that some lands will be kept open for the public to use and enjoy. Today, people in the North Central region are rediscovering their history. The land is also part of our history. It is a heritage we must all work to conserve. Stan Hurd, an artist from Kansas, has chosen an unusual way to express his love of the land. He plants his crops in the form of giant pictures. We're all just visitors on the earth, Mr. Hurd says, and the best we can do is not mess it up too much for our descendants. I like to think that my earth pieces prove you can do something beautiful and in tune with our planet. The North Central region is at the heart of the United States of America. It is easy to travel from the region to anywhere else in the country. You could find your way just by following the water. The Mississippi River system branches out across the land like a huge tree. Most of the rivers in the North Central region are part of this natural transportation network. Another natural water route is through the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes connect the North Central states with the St. Lawrence Seaway and the Atlantic Ocean. At certain important points along the lakes and rivers, often at places where lakes and rivers meet, lie the cities. The North Central region has some of the biggest cities in the United States. The cities began when European settlers arrived. The French and the English built forts and trading posts along the rivers. This map shows some of the first towns in the region. The dark dots show the French settlements. The light dots are the British or American settlements. As you can see, many of the early settlers entered the region by crossing the states of Kentucky and Virginia, and then going down the Ohio River. Towns along the Ohio grew as more and more pioneers entered the region. During the 1830s and 1840s, roads were built to connect the major river ports, and canals were dug to connect the Great Lakes with the rivers. This map shows the earliest roads and canals that were built. The dark lines show the canals. The light lines show the roads. During pioneer times, Cincinnati, Ohio was the largest city in the north central region. In the year 1850, Cincinnati had about 115,000 people. The second largest city was St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis is located near the place where the Mississippi River joins its longest branch, the Missouri River. Because of its location, St. Louis became the most important stopping point on the way to the west. The colored lines on this map show the routes west from St. Louis. From St. Louis, people could travel up the Missouri River to settlements like Kansas City, or St. Joseph, Missouri, the starting point of the Pony Express. Pony Express riders took the mail from St. Joseph all the way to California. The cities grew even faster after the coming of the railroads. The railroad was a sign of another big change that was taking place during the 1800s, the switch to using machines. The north central region is rich in the natural resources that are needed for making machines. The lightly shaded areas on this map show deposits of coal. The darker shaded areas in northern Michigan and Minnesota show deposits of iron ore. The dark spots in Indiana, Ohio, and Kansas show where oil and gas are found. Coal and iron ore are two of the natural resources used in making steel. And steel is needed for making the machines that are most identified with the north central region. Automobiles. This is the city of Detroit, Michigan. Detroit's nickname is Motown, or Motor Town. Detroit is the oldest city in the north central region. It was founded in 1701 by the French. Traders and Roman Catholic missionaries were its first European settlers. But it was the automobile that really put Detroit on the map. During the early part of this century, hundreds of thousands of people moved to the Detroit area, looking for work in the automobile factories. Many of the newcomers were black people from the southern part of the United States. This simple building is an important landmark in Black American history and one of the most popular tourist attractions in Detroit. It's the original home of Motown Records, the birthplace of the Motown sound. Visitors also like to see the elaborate mansions of the auto barons, the men who made great fortunes by inventing and manufacturing the first cars. The American automobile industry is centered in Detroit, but the industry depends upon many other cities for its success. Cleveland, Ohio, for example, is a center for producing and shipping iron and steel and for manufacturing automobile parts. Today there is a belt of cities that stretches from Cleveland across to Chicago, Illinois. The squares on this map show where steel and iron ore are produced. The circles show places where cars or car parts are produced. Chicago is the largest city of the North Central region. The city is a good example of how all the cities in the region have grown and changed. Chicago is located along the southwestern shore of Lake Michigan. If you look closely at this aerial photograph, you can see why Chicago was built at this location. The dark line that runs through the upper left part of this picture is the Des Plaines River. This river is part of the Mississippi River system. At Chicago, the river system is very close to the Great Lakes. Railroad lines from the East Coast arrived in Chicago in 1852. By the 1860s, Chicago had become the railroad transportation center for the entire country. In 1871, the city suffered one of the worst disasters in the history of the United States, the Great Chicago Fire. Over 90,000 people lost their homes in this huge blaze. After the fire, the city was quickly rebuilt. A new form of building, the skyscraper, appeared on the Chicago skyline. Hundreds of thousands of immigrants poured into the city. As in Detroit and other cities, many of the immigrants were from countries in Europe. And many others were black people moving up from the South in search of jobs in the factories. A large industrial area grew up on the south side of Chicago. The factories spread down to the Indiana state line and beyond. Steel mills in Hammond, Whiting, and Gary, Indiana, helped speed Chicago's growth. From ports like South Chicago, the steel was shipped through the Great Lakes to factories in Detroit, Toledo, Cleveland, and other cities. Chicago is still the transportation center of the United States. It is also one of the nation's centers for banking. This is the Chicago Stock Exchange. Traders meet here to buy and sell shares of corn, hogs, cattle, soybeans, and many other products of the north central states. Chicago has had many problems in recent years. These problems are shared by the other cities of the north central region. Air pollution has grown more serious as industry and traffic have increased. Water pollution is a problem, too. Another problem is the growth of the suburbs. Chicago is spreading toward the south, north, and west, farther and farther away from its center. Factories and businesses are moving out of the central city. In some inner-city neighborhoods, there are not enough jobs. Houses are run down. The people are very poor. The traditional industries of the region, such as automobile manufacturing and steelmaking, have been cutting back in recent years. That means that many workers have lost their jobs. New jobs are in areas like computers and space communications. These jobs need workers who have been specially trained to do them. The big cities need more education for workers. Like all big cities, Chicago has problems: overcrowding, poverty, crime, and unemployment. But Chicago also has big city excitement. You can see some of the world's greatest paintings at the Art Institute of Chicago, and some of the world's most famous sculptures in Chicago's downtown plazas. You can go for a sail on Lake Michigan, or enjoy the view from the Sears Tower, the world's tallest building. Every city in the north central region has its own special sights and sounds. St. Paul, Minnesota is known for its yearly winter carnival. Des Moines, Iowa is the home of the Iowa State Fair, one of the largest farmers' fairs in the world. Indianapolis, Indiana hosts the annual Indy 500, a world-famous auto race. The cities of the north central states. They are places where you can look back into the past and forward into the future. They are centers of transportation, industry, communications, recreation, and entertainment. In the city, you can root for your hometown team and feel connected to every other place in the world. The rivers of the north central region flow from the highlands. Examples.
Welcome to the Power CD operating environment. Power CD is an interactive multimedia environment that lets you learn at your own pace. Power CD consists of multimedia documents containing text, images, audio, animation, and video. These media documents reveal themselves in 5 different modes. To move through documents within a mode, use the forward, pause, and back buttons, or the reference or index buttons. The main program is called the Overture. It consists of selected multimedia presentations which automatically play in a preset order. The Overture button always returns you to your place in the Overture. Presentation mode is self-playing and combines text, views, audio, and a timer. Presentations provide topical and in-depth discussions. Text mode contains volumes of information. Specific topics are presented in books, writings, images, and sounds. View mode contains images, animations, and video. This visual information references related text information. Question mode contains interactive questions, answers, and explanations. Quiz mode consists of questions on specific categories. After taking a quiz, you can review each correct and incorrect answer and see supporting explanations. References appear as buttons or blue text linking the current media document to other documents. Select the Reference button for a list of available references. Select the Contents button to access and browse lists of all multimedia documents. The Index button lists every document organized by subject. Select options for printing, saving, backtrack, glossary, word search, and more Power CD features. From Options, you may print, save, or copy information from any document. You may backtrack through your previous selections with the right mouse button or backspace key. The History button in Contents displays a complete list of every document you have seen. Terms in the Power CD glossary appear as green text. The glossary is also accessible from Contents or Options. You may search for any word on the disk from Contents or Options. Word List displays the number of times each word appears in every document. Individual speed keys take you directly to Power CD features. The best way to learn about Power CD features is to try them yourself. Detailed explanations can be found at any time in the Power CD help files.